This video, sponsored by the California Department of Education, is part of the CAASPP and ELPAC Interim Assessment video series. This video is an overview of how to administer the ELPAC interim assessments. There are different requirements and processes for administering specific domains or grade levels for the ELPAC interim assessments. This video will cover the steps of a standardized administration and related general information. For more specific information, access the other videos in this module on how to administer the speaking domain, the kindergarten through grade 2 listening, reading, and writing domains, and the grades 3 through 12 listening, reading, and writing domains. While some videos cover different grade levels due to the differences in standardized administrations, keep in mind that all interim assessments can be administered off-grade and are flexible in other ways for non-standardized administrations. It is important also to note the difference in training requirements for the ELPAC interim assessments versus the initial or summative ELPAC. Initial and summative ELPAC test examiners must complete and pass calibration annually in order to administer and score those assessments. The ELPAC interim assessments do not require calibration. Therefore, watching these videos or administering the interim assessments does not qualify an educator to administer and score the initial or summative ELPAC. Keep in mind that the ELPAC interim assessments are not intended to be administered to students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. If a student has the designation of the alternate ELPAC in their Individualized Education Plan, or IEP, they should not be administered the ELPAC interim assessments. If you are interested in administering the initial, summative, or alternate ELPAC and want to learn more, ask your school or district testing coordinator for more information. ELPAC interim assessments are available for the same grade levels and grade spans as the summative ELPAC. For each, there are 4 domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Some of these domains and grade spans have different requirements or processes to administer the assessment. The educator might be required to navigate the student testing interface for the student, to prompt students or provide content for questions, or even to score student responses in the moment. Before administering the ELPAC interim assessments, you will want to familiarize yourself with the score administration and scoring materials in the Test Operations Management System, or TOMS. You can find the materials by navigating to TOMS, selecting the Resources tab, and then selecting ELPAC Interim Assessment Secure Materials. Next, you'll select the grade level or grade span desired and select the document you need. For many domains, you will need the Directions for Administration, or DFA document, to access standardized directions, prompts, content information, score sheets, and more. Some grade spans and domains will only have training guide and exemplar documents in order to practice scoring, or test content and answer key documents, which can help educators familiarize themselves with the test content. Furthermore, they provide suggestions for how to use the interim assessment in a non-standardized manner. When you are ready to administer a test, you'll need to start a test session. Keep in mind that in a standardized administration, some domains must be administered one-on-one, and some can be administered to groups of students. For most domains, educators will need 2 devices, one to start a test session in the Test Administrator, or TA interface, and one for the student to log on in the secure browser. To set up a test session, navigate to elpac.org and select the button labeled Test Administrator Interface for Online Tests. This button is also available on the Interim Assessment Administration Resources webpage. The Test Administrator, or TA interface, is accessed with logon credentials for TOMS. If you have questions about getting access with an appropriate role in TOMS, contact your school or district testing coordinator. Once logged on, the administrator can select the Start a New Test Session Now button to bring up the test selection page. All assessments are color-coded. All interim assessments are the same color. When the summative assessment testing windows open, the summative and alternate assessments will be shown in different colors. Care should be taken in selecting the tests, especially once the summative assessments and alternate assessments display in the selection window. In this example, we are going to select the grades 3 through 5 ELPAC Interim Assessment Reading domain for demonstration purposes. Before starting the session, select the session type of in-person, or remote, or hybrid. Then select a manner of administration. If students are taking the assessment in a typical manner, with each student navigating independently through the test during a group administration, choose Standardized/Benchmark. Otherwise, if the educator will be administering the test by displaying the items to a class, or in some other manner, choose Non-Standardized. Keep in mind that the manner of administration selection does not affect the test itself or the results shown in the California Educator Reporting System, or CAASPP. However, the manner of administration will appear as a data tag in CAASPP for educators to consider when viewing results as a way of distinguishing whether the student's results are valid for comparison or analysis. On the following screen, a session ID will be displayed. This session ID should be given to students so they can log on. Consider writing it in a location visible to all testing students and where testing students and the educator can refer to it. Keep in mind that when administering the ELPAC interim assessments for students in kindergarten through second grade, the educator will navigate the testing interface for the student, including the student logon. Students will log on in the secure browser or the web-based student testing interface if they are taking the interim assessment remotely. The logon process requires the student's SSID, their first name as it appears in the school's records, and the session ID. Select the Sign In button to continue. The Is This You screen will then be displayed. If the information is correct, the student or educator will select the Yes button. The Your Test screen will then display all available assessments that were selected for the session by the educator. If multiple assessments are available within the same session, make sure that students know which assessments they should select from this screen. Once an assessment is selected, they will see the Waiting for Approval screen until the educator approves them to begin testing. As students log on and select assessments, the educator will be able to observe which students are awaiting approval. Select the Approvals button to open the Approvals and Student Test Settings screen. Students with default test settings are students whose test settings, also known as accessibility resources, have not been changed in TOMS. Students with custom test settings are those who have had at least one test setting changed. All test settings should be reviewed and finalized before the student begins the test. Those settings can be found by selecting the View icon. On this screen, certain settings can be modified. Note that if students already have test settings assigned in TOMS, they should appear at this step and will also appear for the summative tests. If there is a need to override this session-level manner of administration designation for an individual student, educators can do so on this screen as well. A feature of the TA interface that is unique to the interim assessments is the ability for educators to modify test settings. However, changes made here for the interim assessments are temporary and will only last for the duration of the interim assessment test session. If a student should have a certain resource for future tests, including the summative assessments, it should be entered into TOMS by a district or school testing coordinator, so make sure to coordinate with the appropriate staff to get students the test settings they need. After all students on the Approvals and Student Test Settings list have been approved or denied, individually or all at once, the Approvals screen automatically closes. Once this has been done, the user should carefully monitor student progress in the Students in Your Operational Test Session table. Certain students can also be pinned to keep them at the top of the list if they need closer monitoring. This table will show when students' tests have been completed and submitted. After tests are submitted, no further changes to tests can be made. To end a test session, select the Stop Session button. Only exit or log off the test administrator interface after stopping a test session. If the browser is accidentally closed while students are testing, the session will remain open until it times out after 30 minutes. To re-access the test session, open the web browser and navigate back to the test administrator interface to enter the active session ID. The interim assessments can be paused and resumed as necessary if students do not finish a test in one sitting. If students pause and resume a test after less than 20 minutes, the student will return to where they left off within a segment and revisit previously answered questions in the current segment. If they resume after more than 20 minutes, the student returns to the last page containing questions with which they have not yet interacted. Once an assessment has been completed and submitted by the student, if the interim assessment taken includes any questions requiring hand scoring in the Teacher Hand Scoring System, or THSS, those answers will appear in the THSS within 20 minutes. Once scored and submitted, it will take another 20 minutes for the results to appear in SIRS. If the interim assessment taken either only includes machine-scored questions, or if scores are submitted in the Data Entry Interface, or DEI, results will take about 20 minutes to appear directly in SIRS. There is more information about SIRS and how to complete hand scoring in other videos in this series. Thank you for viewing this video on how to administer the ELPAC interim assessments. To learn more information about administering and scoring the different domains, access the other videos in this series by visiting bit.ly/IA video series. This video was brought to you by the California Department of Education.